If you want to see Bear Grylls' lost brother get hung up like a Christmas tree ornament, well, you've a demented soul, but you'll get what you came for. In this video on Nerd Explains, I'll take you on a tour of all the kills and deaths in The Ritual. If you need a summary or explanation of the movie and its ending, a breakdown of the monster, or you just want to know how to beat the monster, I'll have videos on all of these that you can check out. But this video is all about The Ritual's suspenseful monster killings. The movie tees up the deadly hiking trip with a grim beginning. After finishing some beers with the boys and discussing the next group vacation they should all go on, Luke and Robert stop by a convenience store to pick up a bottle of booze. A couple of quips later, they find a beat-up shopkeeper lying on the ground, and two thugs emerge from the back room. Luke backpedals behind some shelves while his friend Robert gets robbed. Luke grabs the bottle of vodka to use as a weapon, but he ultimately does not get the courage to stand up and fight for his friend. When Robert refuses to give up his wedding ring, he is whacked in the side of the head with a pipe, dropping him to the ground and busting his face open. Robert is still alive at this point and looks to his friend one last time before the second blow ends his life.
Look, I'm not
Oh, fuck! Mate, what are you doing?
I told you!
Fucking hell, mate!
Marking the first kill of the movie and pounding it home that Luke let his friend down. His newfound survivor's guilt will ripple through the story arc for the rest of the movie. Personally, I think Robert should have just given up the wedding ring. Sure, it has sentimental value, but so does your life. Those rings only cost, what, $1,000? I'm also not sure that Luke did have an option here. Two thugs that are obviously crazy and well armed would still destroy Rob and Luke, and considering one of the thugs had a fucking trench knife and Rob had some booze, both of them would have been killed. Fast forward a bit and the friends decide to go on the hiking trip that Robert suggested before being killed. After Dom twisted his knee while hiking, the group looked for a faster route back home. The shortcut they decide on leads them into a forest where they stumble across their first major red flag. A poor elk that was gutted and hung from a tree as a form of sacrifice, purposefully placed by the monster in the hiker's path in order to scare the shit out of them.
Why is it ripped open?
It's been gutted.
The second death of the movie. This was a fresh kill as the blood was still dripping. Most likely the monster was nearby watching them this whole time. The friends quickly hit the trails and press on to avoid being next. The previous night they stayed at a cabin where they all had intense nightmares, which little did they know were caused by the monster hunting them. So when the sun goes down again and the group has to pitch tents, it's pretty clear shit's about to go down. Luke especially knows this as he can hear the monster lurking in the forest around them.
Let's have a look at this.
Despite this, he is still somehow able to climb into his tent and go to sleep. I know I wouldn't be able to. As soon as Luke grabs a midnight snack, he hears the monster walking around his tent. He unzips the tent to take a peek. The monster was waiting for Luke and induced another nightmare of his friend's death. The monster uses this hallucination to taunt Luke by calling him a coward, a hint that somebody's going to die just as Robert did. Luke emerges from the hallucination as the monster moves on to rip Hutch out of his tent and drag him into the forest, screaming and wailing.
What? Hutch is gone!
Ah!
The remaining 3 friends rush into the forest to find Hutch, but they can't find him in the darkness. When dawn breaks, they begin their search again. They eventually find out what they already knew, but refused to believe. Hutch, just like the elk from earlier, was gutted and hung from a tree.
Is that how...
What makes it even more ghastly is that Hutch almost appears to be looking at them from the tree with his cold, dead eyes. A moment that starkly contrasted and shattered their hope of all of them making it back alive to drink beers at the lodge. Also, like the elk, Hutch's mutilated body was purposefully placed in their path by the monster, which was actually helpful because they needed the compass anyways, so thanks, monster. Hutch had been the strongest, most level-headed leader throughout all the hardships the group had faced up to this point, which may have made him the first target. Either way, Hutch comes in at number 3. After finding Hutch's corpse, the remaining 3 friends spend the rest of the day trying to make it back to the edge of the forest while being stalked by the monster. Luke runs ahead of Phil and Dom to get a better view. They are now within sight of the tree line, but not close enough to make it there before the forest gets dark and the monster begins hunting them again. Luke hurries back to his friends, but they're nowhere to be found, and with darkness falling and no reply from his friends, it's clear that someone's doomed.
Guys, you've got to see this. Dom? Phil? What are you doing?
We heard something.
Phil?
The monster then induces another hallucination in Luke, this time telling him that he can't run. The monster is really targeting Luke and killing his friends to manipulate him. Dom and Luke make a run for it, only to find Phil impaled on a tree. Number 4. Again, the monster placing Phil's corpse at that spot where they would run into it means that the monster is hurting them in a direction. They are running to exactly where the monster wants them to run. The monster does successfully herd Dom and Luke to its cult following, where now Dom is being sacrificed to the monster because it's actually a god. He's placed on the sacrificial cross, which is the shape of the Elder Futhark rune that translates to elk, which is what the monster looks like. At this point, Dom already knows he's dead, as his nightmare in the cabin earlier in the movie predicted this, the nightmare that the monster created. Even though he knows his fate is inevitable, it's still unnerving to see what his final fate looks like. Dom gets a clear view of the hanging remains of innocent travelers and hikers that have entered the forest before them. We only see 3 bodies in the trees, so those are the ones we'll count. Dom's time has now come. Luke struggles to free himself from his shackles so he can help his friend and prove that he isn't the coward he once was. But it's too late. Dom's wife, Gail, emerges from the forest, another tormenting hallucination caused by the monster. The sweet husband-wife embrace is ruined when the monster reveals its true horrifying form. It then carries Dom to his final resting place, impaled in the trees like the travelers before him. Bringing the total to 8 kills so far. Luke is told that since he is marked by the monster, he can become a member of the cult and worship their god, and in return it will grant him everlasting life. or else he will end up like his friends. Well, Luke slips his shackles and makes his way up to the attic where the ritual is supposed to occur, and finds out what the promised everlasting life actually looks like. He opens the attic door to find a small church filled with the remains of older cult members, only they aren't actually dead. The monster god had granted them everlasting life, but it didn't stop them from aging. The elders are forever stuck in that attic, worshipping the god, as their bodies are far too decrepit to move. I guess you need to read the fine print on these things. Luke takes a torch and, honoring Dom's last wishes that he burns this motherfucker to the ground,
Come on, Boogie, let's burn this motherfucker down!
lights the writhing mummified elders on fire. It's honestly a mercy killing though. It looks like 4 elders per row, 3 rows with the boss bro up front, so that's about 13 kills added to the board by Luke. He returns from the attic and is confronted by a creepy old lady. Now we technically don't know if she's dead, but Luke didn't hold back and absolutely dome rocked her with the right jab, and she instantly dropped to the floor with a heavy thud. This was such an awesome moment that I just have to include it. Luke finds an old German World War II rifle and some ammo. As he's making his way out of the burning house, he's confronted by the creepy old bald guy from earlier. There's a lot of creepy people in this cult. He tries to shoot him, but the bolt was stuck. As the creepy cult bro tries to advance on Luke, the shot rings out and blows a hole through him, sending him flying into the 22nd spot.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Shit.
This nice blonde lady was most likely Anna Erickson's daughter, from the wallet and tent they found abandoned earlier in the movie. The monster, pissed off at the cult allowing Luke to burn their church and elders to the ground, gouged her eyes out and dropped her dead in front of Luke, as a see what you caused type of thing. I don't think Luke really gave a fuck though, as he immediately bounces and eventually makes his way to the tree line as the lone survivor. The blonde lady will be the 23rd and final kill of the movie. That wraps up the kill count for the ritual. In my opinion, Hutch's death was the most gruesome and impactful, as it completely shattered the group's hope that they'd get out of the forest alive. But let me know what you thought of the kills in this movie. Thanks for watching.